What it is, y'all? It is your old boy Pilk, and I'm coming back at you today with more Danmachi. And today we're doing a little bit, well, you saw the title. We're doing a little bit of a before you summon action here. Make sure you guys are hitting that old thumbs up button. Make sure you basically lets me know that I'm doing what y'all want to see. So, let's kick it off, because I think it's going to be a bit of a longer one, if I'm honest. All right. So, the new Kino, the Kino that's actually from the side story event, or the, what would you call it? Like a gag manga version of whatever it is. The new Kino. Schoolgirl Kino. So Schoolgirl Kino is going to be in her own banner. She's basically like Kotori and Shino when they came back, or when they got their own banners when Data Live came back. So that's kind of what's going on here. Academy Kino, couldn't think of the word. Academy Kino, skill 1 is going to be a fast self, crit rate, guard rate, counter rate, earth damage, all 40%. So 4 skills for 40% for 5 turns. That's pretty nice. And it's a fast self buff too, so do bear that in mind. It's fast. Skill 2 is a foe's plural super earth physical attack with high unguard rate for every crit buff on self, skill damage 30%. So now your earth damage suddenly becomes 70%. So that's kind of nice. And then skill 3 is a foe singular fast high earth physical attack with high critical rate for every crit buff on self, skill damage plus 30%. So we've seen these units before. We've seen them do this before, and they get ridiculous. Now, it says skill damage 30%, and I'll be real, that's not element damage, that's skill damage. So I think that's like everything's 30%, if I recollect. But that is pretty nuts. This is not a unit you really want to pass on, if I'm entirely honest. Okay. Now, we are going to get in the changes for the Kino units, but first, let's talk about, because I actually have them right here, and it's more convenient for me to do it this way. Y'all are hyped for Alan. I know it. Everybody seems to be going nuts for him, so let's talk about Alan. Okay? And frankly, I'm going to go on after old boy. Now, he is not time limited. Not time limited. So do bear that in mind. But let's talk about the banner anyway. Okay? Skill 1, and this is kind of ridiculous. We'll get to what's ridiculous about him in a moment. Skill 1 is a foe's plural fast, high earth physical attack with high encounter rate, removes strength, all debuffs on strength, agility, and let me rephrase that. Fast, high earth physical attack with high encounter rate, removes all debuffs on strength and agility for all your allies. Sorry, it's a bit of a mouthful, that. It's not a skill we're used to seeing, and it's a bit weird, so it's wrapping your mind around how it works, because not only when I just regurgitate lines to you, I just, here's what it is, I also want to wrap my mind around how that's going to function. So basically, every time he attacks, all debuffs on everybody that are strength or agility based are gone. So that's super duper handy. And it's a foe's fast high attack. So pretty crazy. That is going to be super handy when it comes to certain events. Skill 2. Foes, plural again. Fast again. Medium. Or mid, technically. Earth, physical attack with high encounter rate and self. Strength, agility, dex, and earth damage. All 25% for 4 turns. Now, worth mentioning, that is only 25%. That is not a very high number. I don't think old boy is going to be a damage monster. I think what he's going to be is kind of more of a support monster. He's going to be pretty crazy. But let me get to the big but associated with that here in just a moment. But first, let's get to skill 3. Skill 3 is a foe singular. Fast again. So look at his agility stat. His agility stat is 1251 before any CP is involved. So that's easily a triple S agility stat. I think he's one of very, maybe 1 or 2 other units that can have that once A, fully ascended, B, you start putting CP into him. I think 1300 is the triple S. I could be wrong on that, but I think it's coming right up on it. Agility stat and fast on top of that, which I forget what the percentage it adds is, but it's ridiculous. Basically, oh boy, if you have him on your team, he's going to be the first doer of actions. Well, attack, since everything's an attack, first attacker on your team every single time, without question, at least until he's usurped some way, somehow in this game. So, skill 3, I get back to it. Fast, high earth physical attack with high critical rate for every agility buff on self, skill damage 40%. Okay? Now, that is skill damage 40% for every agility buff. Now, here's what's crazy. Let's talk about a super attack. Foes, plural. So it is a foes, plural super attack. Super earth physical attack. And it's not an ultra. It is a super. It could be a harder hitter. But what he does with temporary strength boost and high penetration for 4 turns, strength, agility, dex, and earth, 60%. Okay? Now, bear in mind, you get another 40% skill damage off your foe's singular after you do that SA. He's going to be an interesting unit to use. Definitely not end of the world, but they did kind of give him a few things that are kind of help balance him out. But, you know, always the first attacker, and just a really interesting build altogether. I'm really looking forward to getting him and testing him. I'm very, very interested in how this dude's going to work. Now, he also comes with Ulfric. Okay? Ulfric and Alan are both going to be on a solo banner for the new story events that are coming for Bell. Okay? Ulfric, skill 1, foe, singular. He's all foe singular down the board, even his SA. Super earth physical attack with high critical rate, self, strength, dex, and earth damage, 30% for 2 turns. Not the end of the world, but interesting that. Foe, singular for skill 2. High earth, but bear in mind, that first one is a super attack. High earth physical attack with high end guard rate, physical resist, and earth resist minus 20%, and skill damage plus 20% for 4 turns. I'm sorry, skill damage. Single target damage. I even just got new glasses, and apparently I'm just blind. So let me go over that one more time. High earth physical attack with high on guard rate, physical resist, and earth resist minus 20%. Single target damage 20% for 4 turns. I'd edit that previous part out, but I want to get this video up, and editing will add another hour to our process. Skill 3, foe singular mid-earth physical attack with high penetration rate. Allies extend buff 1 turn, foe extend debuff 1 turn. As I said yesterday, he's a mini Hime in that respect. SA is foe singular. Ultra, remember, Alan's only a super. Ultra Earth physical attack, that's more what we expect to see with SAs these days. For every dex buff on self, skill damage plus 80%, and self SA gauge charge 100% for 5 turns. So, basically what he's going to do is he's going to come out of the gate, and he's going to say, cool, everything buffs to like the end of the earth, and my SA gauge is now gonna just jump higher, so he can just do that over and over and over again in rapid succession once you get the first SA off. That is gonna be a really interesting stat there. He's foe singular. He's gonna be pretty useful when it comes to like the new equipment campaigns, or when you get like the next record busters and things like that. He's gonna be a very, very interesting unit. Okay, now that is the new units, the three new units that we're getting this evening. But let's talk about some of the changes to the Kino units and get that underway here, okay? So, Kino and Hermes being the motorcycle Kino rides. Flute shot, this was the first skill. I'm sorry, that's the SA. I apologize. That's the SA. Flute shot is the SA. It is a foes, or before, it was foes, plural, ultra physical attack with temporary strength boost. Meh. What is that in this day and age? Now it is foes, plural again, ultra earth, adds that earth type in there, physical attack with temporary strength boost, and ultra on guard rate and physical resist and earth resist minus 35% for 2 turns. That's pretty nice, honestly. That is really nice. That's gonna... Earth units are already pretty beastly. You get that off, you debuff the hell out of your enemy. Okay? Skill 1. Before was a foe's singular high physical attack with ultra critical rate. Now is foe's singular high earth, always adding that earth in there, physical attack with temporary strength boost and ultra critical rate and seal. So adding seal into the mix as well as the temporary strength boost. So, and the earth skill. So that is, I think brings that unit back into, I won't say prominence, but definitely makes makes Kino quite useful once again. Used to like go in a war game and just be terrified when you saw Kino come up, and I would say now Kino is once again a threat. Okay. Boiling Assault Shot, skill 2. Also notice that there's a little bit of a change in the MP cost. MP cost went from 25 up to 32, so that's kind of appropriate for the changes. Boiling Assault Shot, mid physical attack with strength and magic, minus 20% for 4 turns. Okay? Became, and it was 28 MP, now it's 35 MP. Fast, added fast to it, mid earth physical attack with ultra uncounter rate, and strength and magic minus 35% for 4 turns. So, added earth, added the ultra encounter rate, and up to 20% to 35%. So, Kino's actually really useful again. Okay? Target focus shot. Before, foes mid physical attack with 15% seal. Now is foes super earth. No, new phone, who it is. Double the MP, mind you, went from 22 to 44, but super earth physical attack with temporary strength boost and 15% seal. Now, the other thing to bear in mind is, they don't mention it here, but I am 99.9% sure if you summon for the new units, let's say you've had these units all along, you summon for the new units, they're going to drop as Hero Ascended units. So, unlike before, you didn't have to spend your Hero Lights, or before you had to spend your Hero Lights, now you don't have to spend Hero Lights to ascend them to 3-star. Now, obviously, you're going all the way to 6-star. You do have to spend Hero Lights there, but that is handy. So if you have them and they're MLB'd, there's still a benefit to summoning for them if you haven't Hero Ascended them. So do bear that in mind. Do definitely bear that in mind. And you can... The interesting thing is, even if you get a useless bond, you can still sell that bond for dupe, and your unit is Hero Ascended. So there's still a reason, maybe, to summon if you already have them. So definitely keep that in the back of your mind with all these units. Even if they're MLB'd, that you get that free Hero Ascension, and you get duped for it. So you're calling that one. If you're free to play, you might be looking at me like, really? Really, dude? Really? But if you're whale, you're like, thought process indeed. So that's a thought, okay? Saboteur. Dex plus 10% becomes Will of Earth. When countering and attacking regular physical attack, a foe singular with Earth element. So, yeah. All attacks are now Earth element, and that is interesting that that's on a counter, too. Acceleration. Agility 10%. Counter attack 1. Counter damage plus 50%. That's pretty nice. So your counterattacks will be 50% damage, or have an additional 50% damage, on top of having the earth element. So that's going to be kind of nice. Those of you that are like counter breakers, yeah, keep that in mind. Unbreakable, endurance 10%, becomes thunder resistance plus 35%. Elephant's upstairs, apparently. Hopefully you didn't hear that, but I ruined it anyway. Crush. Strength 10% becomes martial arts. Strength, endurance, and agility, and dex 25%. All 4 stats 25%. Crazy. Status resist. Ailment resist minus plus 50%. Now it's ailment resist plus 35%. So Kino got a big update. Okay, and looks like the numbers have been modified here. Before and after, with before Hero Ascension, strength was 1611, or is 1611 now. After Hero Ascension, 1961, endurance 478 and 658. That's pretty nice. Dex 633 and agility 920 becomes 1003 after that. So very nice. Okay. Shizu and Riku. That's the dude with the fluffer. Alright. He's a big old puppy. Alright. I actually don't have any of the Kino used, so I am actually going to go after at least one of each for collection purposes. Before, one-bladed bisection. Foe singular, ultra physical attack with temporary strength boost becomes one-bladed bisection. Ultra earth physical attack, damage plus 30% per each self-strength and critical rate buff skill, and earth resist minus 50% for 2 turns. Holy crap. Wait, what? No, do this. Earth resist minus 50% for 2 turns. Now, if you're using someone that increases the debuff rate, that's going to stay in place. That is broken for Earth teams. Earth teams are already pretty crazy. That is broken as hell for Earth teams. Skill number 1, Headwind. Foe, singular, high physical attack with temporary strength boost. And notice that it was 25 MP, becomes 32 MP. After foe, super earth physical attack, damage plus 50% per each self, strength, and critical rate buff skill. Interesting. Okay. Skill 2, Artisan Sword. Foe, singular, mid physical attack with removes all physical resist buffs and except assist. Yeah. Physical resist buffs except assist skills. Words. Now it becomes from 33 MP. It actually drops to 28 MP. It's the first one I think we've seen that drops. High earth physical attack with temporary strength boost, and removes physical buffs and assist skills. It's not crazy, but it becomes a high earth attack and adds the temporary strength boost. Not the end of the world, that. Concentration. Self-critical rate plus 15% for 4 turns. After strength and critical rate and earth damage 50% for 4 turns. That is a game changer for him. That is a super game changer for him. And I actually want him because my earth teams are kind of trash and I need to really start working on them. Okay. Saboteur, Dex plus 10%. Earth Manifestation becomes Earth Manifestation. Thunder Resist plus 25% when countering and attacking. Regular physical attack a foe with Earth element. Blah, 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 blah. Basically, Thunder Resist gives Thunder Resistance 25% and adds a Earth element to all attacks and counters. Acceleration was Agility 10%, becomes Strike, critical damage 20%. Unbreakable, Endurance 10%. Becomes Martial Arts, same thing we saw before. Strength, Endurance, Agility, and Dex 25%. Sword Fighter, Strength 10%. Becomes Status Resistance. Ailment Resist plus 35%, very similar to what we saw before as well. Status Resist, Ailment Resist plus 15%. Becomes Plant Killer. Plant Killer skill. You know that we're going to get a Familia, either a Familia Royale or Familia Rush. Probably Familia Rush if I'm honest. You probably need these plant killers. I'm just saying that right now. As soon as you see that come into play, and we already know that the next end unit in here is a plant to begin with. Ability. Ability points plus 50% towards plants. So in other words, he's going to already have an affinity to defeat plant type units. Okay. You can see all the numbers here. Strength has now 1607, Endurance 480, 632 for Dex, Agility 923, and then of course these are the numbers once he's Hero Ascended. Those are pretty crazy numbers. Strength 1957, that is crazy, and Agility 1006. Very nice. Okay, Hermes and Hermes. Hermes and Hermes. Which one's riding which? So I just want to see that, like, Hermes on all fours and the motorcycle, just like, not like that, but, you know, like, get your mind out of the gutter. Like, Hermes, never mind. I'm gonna edit that piece out, because y'all aren't mature enough to handle that imagery. Before, Biker Bash, Ultra Physical Attack with 30% stun becomes Biker Bash, Ultra Fire Physical Attack, he's a fire type, damage plus 40% per each self-agility buff skill, and Ultra Unguard rate with 50% stun. That imagery now, it's contagious. Y'all, I can see what y'all are visioning, and y'all are nasty people. You need to go to church. Says the guy who's about to run a stream called Wood Plow Wednesday. Anyway, before, Rev Up, MP 30, Self, Agility 75%. For 4 turns, foes stun resist minus 75% for 4 turns. Interesting. After Rev Up, fast agility 75%. new foe to this, agility 75%, and foe stun resist minus 75% for 5 turns. Weird that. Skill 2, foe singular burnout. High physical attack with 30% stun becomes foe singular super fire physical attack with temporary strength boost and ultra penetration rate and stun. Kind of nice that. And then traction burst. High physical attack with 15% stun becomes high fire physical attack with high critical rate and 20% stun. So interesting that. I don't know if Hermes is really groundbreaking in this regard, but interesting unit. And that stun could be absolutely clutch in certain events, but I'm going to be real. I really only think the only event I'd really, well, I guess maybe Familia Royale, Familia Rush, maybe. I think those units are usually, someone correct me if I'm wrong, I've never tried ailments in that event, but I think ailments are usually nullified by that event. I don't know. Someone correct me in the comment section if I'm wrong, but I've never honestly tried it. Crafter, Dex 10% becomes Will of Fire. When countering and attacking, basically adds fire element to all attacks. Acceleration was agility 10%, now becomes counter attack, counter damage plus 50%. We've seen that before. Unbreakable, endurance 10% becomes wind resistance 35%. Crush, strength 10% becomes strength, agility, martial arts. We've seen it before. Strength, agility, endurance, and dex 25%. I said two of those backwards. Status resist, ailment resist 15% becomes status resist, ailment resist 35%. So very, very, very familiar things to what we've seen here. Okay. Once again, strength 1147, 1472 when Hero Ascended. Not the greatest thing in the history of mankind. Endurance 451 becomes 619 once Hero Ascended. Dex 768, Hero Ascended 863. Agility 621 becomes 646. Not crazy, but with that big agility buff he's got, that actually does get pretty nuts pretty fast. Probably the only person that'd be faster than him at that point would be Alan. Speaking of earlier things in the video. Photographer and Sew. Strobe light effect. Physical resist and magic resist minus 30%. Now becomes physical resist and magic resist minus 35%. And damage received. Attack all targets. It's single targets plus 35%. That's kind of nice, actually. Okay, that's her essay. Interesting essay, that. Before full throttle, MP 20 becomes high physical attack index to magic. Been a while since we've seen an indexed attack. Becomes MP 34 super fire physical attack damage index to magic 40% per each self magic buff with high penetration rate. Interesting. Interesting stat that. Before pharmacy 39 MP, mid heal and guard rate 35% for 2 turns. Becomes MP 30, reduces MP again. Allies fast mid HP heal 30%. I'm sorry, fast mid heal and 30% HP regen and guard rate 30% for 2 turns. Nice. And Voice of Popular Street, heal 20% for 4 turns, becomes strength, magic, and counter rate, and heal 25% for 5 turns. MP only goes up 1. So really, that's not a groundbreaking thing right there. Okay. Crafter, Dex 10% becomes encouragement. Now here's an interesting one. When countering, instead of attacking regularly, it low heals an ally, prioritizing the ally with lower percentage. This is that thing that makes Haruhime absolutely crazy as far as healing goes. So giving her this is really nice. She's going to be a great healer. A great healer. Considering this is now a strength, magic, and counter rate plus 25, or with heal plus 25%. And she has a mid heal up here with an HP regen on top of it. She's gonna be a great healer. Trust me, she's gonna be an awesome healer. Acceleration, agility 10% becomes protection, physical resist and magic resist plus 15%. That's actually nice. Unbreakable, endurance 10% becomes wind resistance plus 35%. Enlightenment, magic plus 10% becomes Hex. Magic, endurance, agility, and dex 25%. Didn't they call that something earlier? Anyway. Status resist, ailment resist 25% becomes ailment resist 35%. We've seen all this before. Okay? So, what changes up here? Endurance is 393 now, up to 561 with Hero Ascension. Dex is 893, up to 988 with Hero Ascension. That's actually a really good number. Agility is only 821 and 846 with Hero Ascension. And Magic is only 1233 to 1543 with Hero Ascension. But, yeah, it's still a pretty good number. Not end of the world stuff, but she's a healer, so let's just be real about our expectations. Okay? Now, we're into the 2 assists. This is the Hestia unit that we all know. Hestia sitting on a motorcycle. I've had her basically since I started the game, more or less. So at MLB, she was physical resist and guard rate 10%. She's now physical resist and magic resist 10%, guard rate 20%. And that's 8% and 15% when she's MLB'd. So, kind of nice that. And T. T is interesting. Okay? I think T is going to wind up back in people's bins and people's teams with this upgrade. Okay? When she's fully MLB'd, she's strength 15% and critical rate, fire, and earth attack damage 10%. That's a lot of skills to add there, but all allies strength 15%, critical fire and earth attack damage 10%. Fire and earth 10%. That's crazy. And critical 10%. I think critical 10% is the highest we've got in the game right now. I'm 100% after T. Make no mistake. Now, that's MLB'd. When she's only level 60, she's 10%, and all the other stats are 8%. So, really, really, really nice upgrade for T. Really nice upgrade for T, especially if you've got a really killer fire team or you're working on an earth team. So, yeah, those are all the new units. And I gotta say, I think we've got some great upgrades on units. But you let me know what you think in the comments section down below. That is going to be the video for now. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Follow my brand, hit me up on Booker. I'll be back at you guys with more of this stuff when the live stream starts. Live stream's going to be a tad bit late tonight, guys. My apologies for that. But we will start probably sometime between 9:30 and 10 p.m. I'll see you guys then.